The church was beautifully decorated, the flowers were perfect, and the music played exactly on cue, but all I could look at was the empty row up front. 2 seats remained vacant, staring back at me like a painful reminder. My parents weren't there. When I called them 2 weeks prior, my mother's voice had been tight and strained. "We just can't afford the flight right now, sweetheart," she had said, citing a sudden plumbing disaster and mounting bills. "We love you, but it's just not in the budget." I swallowed my tears, told them I understood, and walked down the aisle without my father. It hurt deeply, but I genuinely believed they were in a financial crisis. I forced myself to accept it, married the love of my life, and tried to move on, believing that hard times fall on everyone. But the illusion shattered exactly 6 months later. My younger sister, Chloe, announced her wedding. She wasn't getting married locally either. She had chosen a lavish coastal venue across 15 states. I braced myself for the incoming drama, wondering how my parents would handle the heartbreak of missing a second daughter's wedding due to their empty bank account. Except, the heartbreak never came. Instead, the family group chat exploded with updates. My mother posted pictures of a gorgeous, expensive designer dress she had just bought. My father shared a screenshot of their first-class airline tickets. They weren't just attending, they were funding a massive portion of Chloe's rehearsal dinner. I sat on my couch, staring at my phone, feeling a cold, suffocating weight press down on my chest. The plumbing disaster and the mounting bills that had supposedly kept them from my wedding had vanished. It became devastatingly clear, it was never about a lack of money. It was about a lack of priority. Chloe had always been the golden child, and I was the independent one who they assumed would just handle the neglect. I chose not to make a scene before Chloe's big day. I didn't want to ruin her wedding, but the resentment simmered inside me. I watched from afar, through social media, as my parents flew across 15 states, throwing themselves into Chloe's wedding preparations with an enthusiasm they had never once shown for me. They looked ecstatic in every photo. But as the wedding weekend unfolded, the cracks in their perfect facade began to show. A few weeks after the wedding, I received a frantic, tearful phone call from my mother. She didn't ask how I was doing. Instead, she immediately began sobbing about their financial ruin. As it turned out, their desperation to give Chloe the perfect wedding had driven them to absolute madness. They didn't have the money to fly across 15 states or buy those first-class tickets either. To pull it off, and to keep up appearances for their favorite daughter, they had maxed out 3 credit cards, taken out a high-interest personal loan, and even dipped into my father's retirement fund. The reality had finally caught up to them. The bank was threatening foreclosure on their house, collection agencies were calling hourly, and my father was facing the reality of working well into his late 70s just to survive. They had literally sacrificed their entire financial stability and future for a single weekend to impress Chloe and her new in-laws. "We don't know what to do," my mother wept over the phone, her voice trembling. "We were hoping you and your husband could lend us some money to get the bank off our backs. Just until we get on our feet." I sat in silence for a long moment, listening to the static on the line and the sound of my mother's desperate breathing. 6 months ago, I would have done anything to help them. 6 months ago, I loved them with a blind loyalty that excused every slight. But looking at the empty space where their support should have been on my own wedding day, something inside me had hardened. They had flown 15 states for Chloe, risking everything they owned, while they couldn't be bothered to find a way to travel just a fraction of that distance for me. They had spent everything on the golden child, and now they expected the ignored child to pay the bill. "I'm sorry, Mom," I said, my voice completely calm, devoid of the anger I thought I would feel. "But we just can't afford it right now. It's simply not in our budget." Before she could respond, I gently hung up the phone. They had sacrificed everything for the daughter who demanded their worship, leaving nothing for the daughter who actually loved them. As I looked around my quiet, modest home, I realized that while they were paying the price for their favoritism, I was finally free from the burden of trying to earn their love.